How can you remain calm when facing criticism? The fire within the words. There's a moment, we all know it, when someone's words slice through the air and land squarely on us, a critique, a judgment. Sometimes subtle, sometimes brutal. It could be your boss, questioning your work in front of everyone, your partner throwing a careless remark at your deepest efforts, or a stranger online, typing from behind a screen, but somehow, it still gets under your skin. Why does it sting so much? Why do we, even the most rational among us, feel a wave of heat rise in our chest? Why does the heart beat faster, the breath quicken, the mind go spinning with defenses? What is it about criticism that feels so personal, even when it's not? In this video, we will walk a long, thoughtful road together, not merely to endure criticism, but to understand it, to rise above it, and, most importantly, to remain calm in its presence. Because, let me tell you something, the Stoics, those ancient guardians of inner peace, faced far harsher words than we ever will, and yet they did not flinch. They did not argue, they did not rage. They practiced a kind of quiet strength, not silence and weakness, but silence and wisdom. A personal moment I remember, a time when I poured my soul into something, a creative project I believed in, but then came the feedback. Cold, unforgiving, public. Someone laughed, another dismissed it, and within seconds, I felt the heat of shame rise inside me. I clenched my jaw, wanted to fight back, to explain, to be understood, but something stopped me. It was a phrase from Marcus Aurelius, drifting into memory like a whisper. If an external thing causes you pain, it is not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment about it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That moment changed everything. Criticism, I realized, is not the enemy. My reaction is the Stoic lens. This video is not a motivational cliche. It is a journey into ancient wisdom, modern application, and personal strength. We will examine why criticism hurts so deeply, the Stoic response to judgment and insults, the psychological traps we fall into, and most importantly, how to stay grounded when others try to shake your foundation. And we'll do it with stories, both ancient and modern, with practices, not just theories, with reflections, not just instructions. So if you've ever felt crushed by someone's words, if you've ever wished for the strength to stay calm, composed, unshaken, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's begin our exploration into the art of calm. Not the fragile calm of avoidance, but the unbreakable calm of understanding. In the next part, we'll explore why criticism feels so personal and what's really going on beneath the surface when we react. What's beneath the surface? Have you ever noticed how even a single sentence, a few careless words, can linger in your mind for hours, even days? Someone says, "That's not very good," or "Honestly, I expected better," and suddenly, it feels like your whole worth has been called into question. But why? Why does criticism, even when mild, strike so deep? To answer that, we must look not outward but inward. The wound behind. The word's criticism doesn't hurt because of the words themselves. It hurts because it strikes something already tender within us. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them." In other words, the pain is internal. It is ours. When we're criticized, what we often feel isn't just hurt, it's fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of rejection. Fear that what we built, who we are, might not hold up under scrutiny. That fear isn't born in the moment. It's a shadow from the past, from childhood, from failure, from past shame. Criticism awakens it like a match to dry paper. And so, we react with anger, with withdrawal, with defensiveness. But these reactions aren't strength, they're shields. And behind those shields is a soul still uncertain of its own worth. The ego and the false identity. The Stoics taught that much of our suffering comes from identifying with what we're not. We confuse our work, our status, our achievements, even our image, with who we are. So when any of those are attacked, it feels like we are being attacked. But you are not your job. You are not your appearance. You are not someone else's opinion. You are your character. You are your choices. You are the steady flame behind all the noise. A story from Seneca. The Roman Stoic philosopher and statesman was no stranger to public criticism. As an advisor to Emperor Nero, his decisions were constantly scrutinized. Some called him a hypocrite, others a coward. But Seneca didn't waste time defending his image. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." And in another place, a great mind becomes invincible by remaining indifferent to what makes the ignorant tremble. Seneca understood that reputation is fleeting but virtue that endures. He saw criticism not as a weapon to fear, but a mirror, a chance to reflect, refine, and rise. A practice. Pause, observe, translate when next you are criticized. Try this. Pause, don't react, just breathe. Observe. What emotion arises? Is it anger, shame, defensiveness? Translate, ask yourself, what belief is being challenged here? Am I afraid they're right, or just afraid of being misunderstood? Often you'll find that the pain has less to do with them and more to do with you, your own fears, expectations, or unresolved doubts. And that is powerful, because what comes from within, you can change. Criticism in its rawest form is not destruction. It's information. Sometimes harsh, sometimes untrue, but always a chance to know yourself better. In the next part, we'll turn to the wisdom of Epictetus and discover how the Stoics trained themselves to become immune to insults without losing compassion or humanity. Epictetus and the art of inner immunity. Imagine being born a slave. Your body does not belong to you. Your labor is demanded. Your dignity is constantly denied. And yet from that life, a philosopher was born, one whose teachings on freedom, resilience, and self-mastery still echo today. That man was Epictetus. And no one understood criticism or cruelty more intimately than he did. When you own nothing but your mind, Epictetus had no wealth, no title, no army, but he had something most people never attain, an unshakable mind. He taught that you cannot control what others say or do, but you have full control over how you interpret it and how you respond. He said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. In other words, no one can insult you without your permission. They can speak, but you decide whether those words enter your soul or bounce off the shield of reason, and that shield is built through practice. Building your inner fortress. Taught his students to treat insults as exercises, like a Stoic gym for the mind. Imagine this: a man walks up to you and says, "You're stupid, completely worthless." The untrained mind burns with anger. How dare he? I must defend myself. But the trained mind, the Stoic mind, pauses, breathes, and asks, is it true? If not, why be upset? And if it is, then perhaps it's a gift, not an insult. This is not weakness. This is supreme strength, the power to choose your own response, no matter the offense. Epictetus would often remind his students, you are not disturbed by events, but by your opinion about them. Let that sink in, because if it's your opinion that causes pain, then you have the power to change the meaning. A personal reflection: years ago, I received a comment on something I shared publicly. It read, "This is shallow nonsense. Do you even know what you're talking about?" For a moment, my pride flared. I felt the familiar sting, but then I smiled, because I remembered Epictetus, and I asked myself, is this person speaking from knowledge, or from their own wounds? Does this comment define me, or reveal something about them? I chose silence, and in that silence I felt peace. That peace is not passivity, it's the clarity of knowing that only truth deserves your attention, and truth is not afraid of judgment. Stoic training. the insult meditationia, a simple yet powerful practice inspired by Epictetus each morning. Imagine someone insulting you harshly. Picture their words, feel the heat rise, and then respond. In your mind, like a Stoic, their words are wind. My virtue is my anchor. Doing this daily doesn't make you numb, it makes you prepared, so that when real criticism comes, as it always does, you won't be caught off guard. You'll meet it with poise, with reason, with strength. So the next time someone throws verbal arrows your way, ask yourself, will you bleed from every word, or will you stand behind the shield of your training? In the next part, we'll examine the ego's trap, why our desire to be liked, praised, and admired makes us vulnerable to even the smallest critique, and how the Stoics broke free from that invisible cage. Why we crave approval, and how the Stoics transcend it. Have you ever wondered why some criticisms strike you like a thunderbolt, while others barely leave a mark? Why do we care so deeply about what certain people think of us, the boss, the friend, the stranger online, and yet feel indifferent when someone else says the same thing? The answer is unsettling, but it reveals one of the deepest traps of human psychology, the craving for approval. The Stoics called it what it is, a form of slavery, a silent chain that binds your mood, your confidence, even your identity, to the ever-changing winds of other people's opinions. Let's explore this trap and how the Stoics broke free from it. The hidden desire behind every reaction. We often think we're hurt by criticism because it's mean or unfair, but more often, it's because we wanted praise and didn't get it. We wanted to be admired, we wanted to be respected, we wanted applause, and instead we got silence, or worse, judgment. And when that happens, the ego screams, they don't see me, they don't value me. That scream is not your soul, it's your attachment to image, the illusion of self. You've spent years building, and the Stoics saw right through it. The Stoic view of the ego. Epictetus said, if you wish to be free, do not wish for things to depend on others. Control what is yours, your judgment, your actions, your thoughts. Approval that's not yours to control, that belongs to them, to their biases, moods, opinions, and blind spots. So why make your peace depend on their applause? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, wrote in his Meditations, I have no concern whether others speak ill of me or not. What matters is that I do not speak ill of myself. He understood something modern minds often forget. Character is who you are when no one is watching. Praise adds nothing. Criticism takes nothing away. A story from the life of Marcus Aurelius as Emperor of Rome. Marcus was constantly scrutinized. Senators gossiped behind his back. Generals questioned his decisions. Even his own people, the Roman citizens, sometimes doubted his fitness to rule. And yet, day after day, Marcus rose before dawn, wrote quietly in his journal, and repeated a simple, Stoic truth to himself. They may curse me, they may praise me, but I am not their puppet. One of his generals once sent a private letter criticizing Marcus's excessive clemency, suggesting that mercy made him look weak. Marcus responded not with anger, but with a gift. He sent the general a fine cloak, a gesture of goodwill. When questioned by an advisor, Marcus said, let them criticize. I would rather rule with justice than with fear. Let my actions speak. This was not passive surrender. This was active mastery, the calm of a man whose identity was rooted in virtue, not in reputation. Commentary: ego is the enemy of peace. Here's the hard truth. As long as your happiness depends on the approval of others, you are not free. You're dancing for applause in a theater you don't control, and when the crowd turns on you, as it inevitably does, you will crumble. The Stoics invite you to step off that stage, to leave behind the vanity of likes, the addiction to praise, the thirst for validation. In its place, they offer something quieter but far more powerful: Self-respect. It does not glitter, it does not shout, but it never leaves you. A practice. The approval detox. Here's something you can try today. Notice, when you seek approval, a post you hope gets likes, a comment you make fishing for praise, a hesitation before speaking. Ask, if no one approved of this, would I still do it? If no one noticed, would I still be proud of it? Act according to your values, not your vanity. Each time you resist the craving for approval, you reclaim a piece of your freedom, and little by little the ego weakens, and the soul strengthens. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, the Stoic walks another path, not unseen, but unshaken. In the next part, we'll explore practical techniques to stay calm in real time when criticism happens, in the moment, and your emotions rise like a storm. How can you center yourself before words become reactions? Time calm, responding, not reacting the moment arrives. You're in a meeting, presenting something you've worked on for weeks. And suddenly, a voice cuts in, sharp, cold, dismissive. This isn't good enough. You missed the point. What were you thinking? Time slows. The room gets quieter, but your mind gets louder. Your heart pounds. Your face warms. Your pride feels wounded. This is the critical moment, the gap between what happens and what you do next. And it's here, right here, that Stoicism becomes most powerful, because the difference between reacting and responding is not just a matter of tone, it's the difference between regret and wisdom. Reaction versus response. Reaction is instant, emotional, automatic. It's the part of you that wants to snap back, prove your point, defend your ego. Response is deliberate, thoughtful. Calm. It's the pause, the breath, the act of choosing reason over impulse. The Stoics trained themselves to extend that gap, to place their judgment before their emotion, and their virtue above their pride. Epictetus said it best, when something happens, the only thing in your power is your attitude toward it. You can either accept it or resent it. Stoic technique number 1, the sacred pause before you speak, before you raise your voice, before you roll your eyes or type that bitter response. Pause, even for 2 seconds. This pause is not weakness, it is the assertion of sovereignty over your own mind. In that moment, silently ask yourself, is what I'm about to say guided by ego or by principle? Will this bring clarity or just conflict? Do I need to win or do I want to grow? Most of the time you'll find that silence says more than retaliation ever could. Stoic technique number 2, the observer's perspective. For a moment, that you are not you, but a calm, wise observer watching the scene unfold. You see someone being criticized. You see their face tense, their breath quicken. Now ask, what would a calm, grounded person do here? What would Marcus Aurelius do if he were in this situation? By creating distance from the emotion, you give your better self a chance to speak instead of your wounded pride. This is how Stoics train their minds, not to suppress emotion, but to reframe it before it controls them. A lesson from Cato. The younger Cato, the great Roman Stoic and statesman, was known for his unshakable calm during a heated Senate session. He was mocked, interrupted, and personally attacked, not once, but repeatedly. While others would have lashed out, Cato simply listened, and when he finally spoke, it was clear, measured, focused on principle, not retaliation. Someone once asked him, why do you let others insult you without answering? Cato replied, because I would rather they be wrong about me than I be wrong about myself. That is strength. Not the loud strength of pride, but the quiet strength of discipline. Stoic technique number 3, the preemptive reflection. The Stoics believed in preparing the mind before battle, not during it. Each morning they would rehearse possible difficulties today. Someone may insult me, someone may misunderstand me, someone may think poorly of me. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. A kind of inner vaccination against emotional shock, so when the moment arrives it doesn't surprise. You've already met it in your mind. You simply nod inwardly and say, "Ah, here it is, just as I expected. Let me meet it with clarity." Final commentary. True power is composure in today's world. Composure is rare. We're conditioned to react quickly, loudly, emotionally. But Stoicism teaches something else. Stillness is strength. Restraint is power. Grace under pressure is the mark of a philosopher in action. Next time criticism comes, try this. Pause before you speak. See the scene from above. Respond with clarity or not at all. Not to win, not to prove, but to remain whole. Unmoved, unbroken, unshaken. Because in the fire of criticism, most people burn. But the Stoic, he tempers himself like steel. In the next part, we'll look at when criticism is actually a gift, how to tell the difference between harmful judgment and helpful feedback, and how a Stoic mind turns even insult into insight. Discernment, humility, and the gift of feedback. Not all criticism is an attack. Sometimes it's a mirror, rough around the edges, but honest. And yet, how often do we miss the lesson because we're too focused on the sting? This is where wisdom begins. In learning to separate harm from help, insult from insight, noise from truth. The Stoics didn't just teach us to endure criticism. They taught us to use it, to grow stronger, clearer, better. The Stoic filter: is it useful? When someone criticizes you, ask not, "Do I like this?" Instead ask, "Is there truth in this?" This question requires humility, the very thing ego resists. It asks you to set aside your pride long enough to search for wisdom in discomfort. Seneca once wrote, "No man becomes better without looking into himself. For what shall we call that man who never listens to the voice that rebukes him?" He wasn't talking about blindly accepting judgment. He meant, listen carefully, and you might discover a blind spot, one you couldn't see on your own. A tale of Socrates, the wisest man, the most humble student. Socrates, the spiritual grandfather of Stoicism, was once called the wisest man in Athens. But his reply was telling. "I am wise because I know that I know nothing." Socrates welcomed challenges. He invited disagreement. Why? Because to him, every objection was a tool, a chance to sharpen his thinking, refine his reasoning, and discover truth. He said, "An unexamined life is not worth living." The Stoics inherited this legacy, the ability to examine even the harshest criticism for value. So, how do we do that? Stoic practice. Discernment over defensiveness. The next time someone critiques you, walk through this process. Pause. Let the emotion settle. Remove the tone. Ignore how they said it and focus on what was said. Search for value. Is there a kernel of truth? Is there something you overlooked? Could their words, even if clumsy, be pointing to a real flaw? Thank them inwardly or outwardly. Gratitude disarms the ego and opens the mind. This doesn't mean accepting every opinion, but it does mean staying open to growth, no matter the source. A personal story: when harsh words became a turning point. There was a time I received feedback I didn't want to hear. A mentor said to me, after reading something I'd worked hard on, "It's impressive, but it's shallow. There's no blood in it. You're still hiding." My first instinct: defensiveness. Offense, silence. In solitude. His words haunted me, not because they were mean, but because they were true. He saw what I didn't, that I was writing to impress, not to reveal, that I was avoiding depth out of fear. That moment hurt, but it also freed me, because from that day forward, I stopped hiding behind style and started seeking substance. Criticism as refinement, not rejection. Marcus Aurelius saw criticism not as an enemy, but as a natural part of human interaction, a kind of philosophical wind that tests your roots. He wrote, "If anyone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change, for the truth is what I seek, and the truth never harmed anyone." This is Stoic power in its purest form, to value truth over pride, to welcome refinement over comfort. Imagine living like that. You become immune, not by resisting criticism, but by becoming so committed to growth that even criticism becomes nourishment. Stoic technique. The feedback journal here is a practice to apply this mindset at the end of each day. Ask yourself, did anyone criticize me today, directly or indirectly? How did I respond emotionally or rationally? Was there truth in their words? Even a little. What can I learn from it? And how will I act differently next time? This simple act turns wounds into wisdom, and over time, you'll fear criticism less, because you'll have turned it into one of your greatest teachers. Final reflection: grow through what you go through in the end. Criticism is inevitable, but suffering from it, that's optional. The Stoics didn't just tolerate hard feedback, they used it as a whetstone to sharpen character, cut through illusion, and sculpt the self. So when the next critique comes, and it will, don't brace for battle, lean in, listen, and ask, what is this trying to teach me? That's not weakness, that's transformation. In the next part, we'll explore how to protect your peace in the age of public judgment, how Stoic principles apply to modern life where criticism comes not just from individuals, but from online crowds, comment sections, and social media storms. The Stoic response to social media, judgment, and the crowd in the ancient world. Criticism came face to face. You looked into the eyes of the person who judged you. You could hear their tone, see their expression, sense their humanity. But today, criticism has no face, no voice, no responsibility that arrives as a comment, a tweet, a post, a like, or the absence of one. It comes from strangers or bots or people hiding behind usernames, and yet it still hurts. Why? Because your brain doesn't distinguish between ancient judgment and digital judgment. It only knows, they don't like me. And with that, your peace begins to slip. But the Stoics have something powerful to say about this modern storm. The crowd is not the compass. Marcus Aurelius, though he lived 2,000 years ago, understood the psychology of the crowd better than most modern thinkers. The approval of 10,000 men is meaningless if you do not approve of yourself. He ruled an empire, but he journaled every night, not to manage Rome, but to manage his own mind. He knew the crowd was fickle. One day they cheer, the next day crucify. He saw that seeking validation from the masses is a trap, because it places your sense of self in hands that do not care to hold it. Does that sound familiar? Think of the last time you posted something, a thought, a photo, a creation, and waited quietly for likes, shares, praise, or worse, feared judgment, mockery, silence. You're not alone, but the Stoics would ask you this: would you still do it if no one saw? Would it still matter if no one applauded? If your answer is yes, then you are living by principle, not popularity. Building a digital Stoic mindset. Let's be honest, we live in a world of hypervisibility and hyper-reactivity. Every opinion is public. Every mistake is permanent. Every success is compared. But Stoicism offers something radical. You don't need to play the game. Epictetus put it this way: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That's not defeatism, it's freedom. Imagine being free from needing everyone to get you, free from needing to defend every post, every idea, every flaw, free to be misunderstood and still calm. That is the Stoic superpower. Lesson from history. Seneca and public opinion. Seneca was the most controversial philosopher of his time. He was praised by some as a genius, and condemned by others as a hypocrite. He served as Nero's advisor, a position that brought enormous wealth and constant scrutiny. But Seneca didn't collapse under public pressure. He wrote, with fierce clarity, what others say about you is their business. What you believe about yourself, that is yours. Even as he withdrew from political life, even as the rumors swirled, Seneca's writings remained grounded, sharp, and brave. He knew the crowd could not give him peace, so he stopped asking for it. Modern practice. The Stoic posting principle: before you share something, an opinion, an image, a piece of yourself, ask, is this aligned with my values? Would I say this in person? With dignity. If no one responded, would I still be glad I said it? If yes, post with courage, and let go of the outcome. And when criticism arrives, as it always does, respond like a Stoic, with stillness, with self-knowledge. With zero need to be approved by those who don't live your life. Commentary. Privacy of the soul. Marcus Aurelius spoke often of a private citadel, a place in your soul that no insult could reach. Withdraw into yourself, especially when things are too noisy. There is a quiet, sacred space in every person. Retreat to it, recenter yourself there. That space still exists even in an age of notifications and hashtags, but you must protect it. You must return to it daily through reflection, journaling, and silence. And in doing so, you reclaim something the internet can never take: your peace. Final reflection. Rise above the noise. A digital age has given every person a voice, but not every voice deserves your attention. Not every judgment is true. Not every opinion is wise, and most of all, the crowd is not your judge. Character is the Stoic does not shout above the noise. He walks quietly through it, grounded, centered, untouchable. He does not seek applause, he seeks alignment. He does not fear the crowd, because he walks with truth as his compass, and virtue as his shield. In the final part of this journey, we'll return home to the inner life of a Stoic. We'll explore how calm isn't a momentary reaction, but a lifestyle, a way of being forged through daily practice, reflection, and love of truth. The Stoic path to unshakable calm. We began this journey with a question: how can you remain calm when facing criticism? Now, after walking through personal stories, historical lessons, Stoic theory, and practical exercises, perhaps we are ready to understand. Calm is not passive. It is not weak. It is not silence born of fear. True calm, Stoic calm, is a kind of inner fire. It burns steady even in the wind. Calm is a practice, not a personality trait. Many people believe calm is something you're either born with or not, but that's not the Stoic view. To the Stoic, calm is a skill, a muscle that is something you train. Like lifting weights, like learning a language, like mastering a craft. You will not always succeed. You will fall. You will overreact. You will take things personally. You will get defensive. But then you return. Through the path, you reflect, you journal, you breathe, and little by little, your reactions soften, your clarity sharpens. And the old storms no longer move you. This is progress. This is philosophy as a way of life. The final wisdom of the Stoics. Let's bring together a few final voices, not as quotes to admire, but as truths to live by. Epictetus, the former slave-turned-teacher, reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Seneca, surrounded by wealth and power, but never blinded by it. No one can harm you unless you allow it. And Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who battled inner chaos and outer wars, wrote to himself, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. These aren't just words. They are shields. They are torches for the dark moments. They are reminders that we are always free to choose our inner state, even when we cannot choose our outer circumstance. A road you walk every day. So what now? What happens when the video ends? When the quotes fade? When criticism knocks on your door again tomorrow or tonight? You begin again. You take a breath. You pause before reacting. You observe your judgment. You return to your principles. Maybe you journal that evening. Maybe you walk in silence. Maybe you whisper to yourself, this is not up to me, but how I respond is. And in that moment, however small, you become a Stoic, not in theory, but in practice, not in name, but in essence. A closing thought. Character is destiny. The world will always criticize. Sometimes it will be fair, sometimes it will be cruel, sometimes it will be right, and that will sting the most. But you have a choice: to let it break you or shape you, to take offense or take ownership, to fight noise with noise or answer with stillness. Because the truth is this: calm is not the absence of pressure, it's the presence of principle. And when you live by principle, by courage, wisdom, justice, and self-control, you no longer react as a victim of circumstance, you respond as an architect of character. And that, my friend, is Stoicism in its highest form. Final words to the listener: you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be cold, you don't have to pretend words never hurt. You only need to keep returning again and again to what is essential: your values, your reason, your inner peace. In a world of noise, be the calm voice, be the calm voice. In a world of judgment, be the centered one. In a world that demands reaction, choose response and let your life whisper what no argument can silence: I am still, I am strong, I am free.